Well, howdy folks. It's a warm day, Canada Day, July 1st, and my plan this morning was to take a walk out in the prairie, test out a couple of new Helle knives. I have two of them, and I wanted to review them, doing a bow drill fire kit, and things didn't go quite as planned. So basically it was really wet and dewy in the morning, and the bugs were bad. And I ended up doing a couple kilometers walk, but the knife review and the bow drill kit didn't happen. So I'm hanging around in my backyard garden right now, amidst the habaneros and the jalapenos and the Armageddon peppers. And we have one little wee Carolina Reaper back there that we're hoping is going to produce some fruit. We'll see, but that's another adventure. For today, I want to basically discuss these two Helle knives. I haven't had too much chance to use them, but I have done it a little bit, and I've done a little bit of carving with them and had some surprises. So the two knives are both Les Stroud collaborations with Helle. One is the Temagami, that's the first one here, and the second one is the Helle Wabakimi. Now, why was I interested in these blades? I do have a bunch of bushcraft blades. Only one of them is a Scandi grind, and I was interested in a combination of a Scandi grind knife and stainless steel with some natural wood handles, and Helle really fit the bill. The other thing is these are designed by Survivorman, and I think that's cool, although I'm not going to buy everything with Les Stroud's name on it. But probably more importantly, and a little bit of a vanity component as well, is the fact that these knives are made or are named after two really great canoeing parks in Canada. So the Temagami is really famous for its old-growth forest situated near the border of Ontario and Quebec. And Wabakimi is a place that my wife and I have been on a few times, and we plan to visit many more times. North of Lake Superior and about 250 kilometers north of Thunder Bay, the city of Thunder Bay in northern Ontario. Both fantastic canoe parks. And my wife always thought, as soon as we learned there was a knife called the Wabakimi, we decided we had to get it. And her sentiment is, wouldn't it be cool if we were in Wabakimi Park on Wabakimi Lake using a Wabakimi knife? And we're going to try and make that happen at some point. So between these two knives, why these two in particular? The story goes with the Temagami that Les Stroud, during his guiding days working in Temagami Park, he actually found this knife, and he used it for a number of seasons, and he thought the knife, the Helle knife that he had found, was one of the best bushcraft knives around. And eventually he lost it, and Helle contacted him for the collaboration, and he basically built the knife from memory, as the word goes. Now, if I look at Helle's lineup, there's a lot of blades with a fairly similar blade shape to this. It's probably the Egan is very close. And the difference is most Helle knives are a rat tang knife, where the thin tang gets pinned at the back. And one of the changes that Les made with all of his collaboration knives are that they are a 3/4 tang knife. So here we see that the tang doesn't protrude all the way to the two bottom, bisecting the scales of the knife. Instead, it's about 3/4. And because this handle is pretty wide handle, that's still quite a thick tang. You have two brass pins, and you have a lanyard pin that provides support for that knife. Now, the Temagami is aesthetically what I kind of consider one of the penultimate bushcraft knives. The blade shape is really useful. In fact, if you look at a picture of the Bravo 1 field knife, you'll find that there's a lot of similarity to the Bark River Bravo 1. The field knife is the one without the thumb ramp. Of course, it's a lot thinner, and it has a Scandinavian grind, which makes it quite a bit different. The handle is curly birch, and this version, this particular knife, is blessed with having some really pronounced modeling from that curly birch itself. Some people complain about the handles that they receive. They don't always end up as distinct as this, and it really is kind of a luck of the draw when you buy your knife from the proprietor. The knife is 0.11 inch thick, so just a bit under 1/8 inch, and I find that tends to be a good thickness, very robust, while at the same time it is very slicey as well. Triple laminated steel. The actual composition of the stainless steels are not known. There's a lot of people that suggest it may be a variation of 12C28N. But I think really the prime component of this knife is, again, really classic lines. There's a slight curvature on the spine and handle of the blade that lends itself aesthetically, I think. And it really chews into wood quite well. This is a very good do-it-all knife. The second knife, which I purchased, and I'm going to admit that I purchased this knife because it was named the Wabakimi, our favorite park on earth. This is the third collaboration that Les Stroud has had with Helle knives, and it's a little bit different. You can see it's a shorter blade. So instead of being a 4-inch cutting edge blade, this one is a 3-inch cutting edge blade, 3.3 inch total length. The handle is very, very close to that of the Temagami with some slight tweaks. You'll notice that there's a more pronounced hook at the end of the handle, and even though it's hard to see the visuals, the handle is actually a little bit thicker and a little bit wider than that of the Temagami. Aesthetically, I don't find this one as pleasing to look at. It just doesn't look like a bushcraft knife to me. Yet, in the hands, and when you're carving wood with it, it really is a surprising knife. In fact, I found myself when I started whittling sticks and carving notches and doing other things with wood, I was constantly reaching over to the Wabakimi, the shorter knife, and there's just so much more control compared to the Temagami. One of the things that's interesting about this is that when I have the saber grip and I place my thumb over the knife, you can see that my thumb is aligned with the belly of this blade, and that gives a lot of control when you're trying to carve out and do some fine level carving, whereas when I place my thumb over the spine of the Temagami, you can see I still got a good little ways to go before I hit that belly. So this is just really a beautiful carving knife, and I suspect it's also a better skinning knife as well. Another thing that's very difficult to see, and I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but the grind lines seem to be a little bit taller on the Wabakimi compared to the Temagami. And that grind line certainly lends itself to a little bit better cutting performance. Both of these knives come in the typical Pringles can, the Helle tube. Some people like the packaging. I don't care. These knives are going to live their life in the drawer with all my other bushcraft knives. And they both come with a classic pouch sheath in leather as well. There is a plastic insert in both of those to help keep the blade from cutting into the leather during when you place the knife back into it. I will note that there's a couple of slight differences, and the Temagami tends to be slightly better quality. It has double stitching across the seam here, and it also has a welt. Whereas in the Wabakimi pouch, it only has a single stitch without a welt. Both of the knives are very, very snugly fitting. They don't shake out whatsoever. And the Wabakimi is even more snug fitting. It is even more secure than the Temagami. One of the things that at least one person had noticed a few years back is they developed a crack in this guard, this finger guard here. They ascribed it to a problem with the knife, although quite remarkably the knife didn't break. They continued to do batoning, and it was the batoning that developed the crack. So again, with all of these knives that are sort of a wood handled type knife as opposed to something synthetic like G10 or micarta, you have to take care of them, you have to maintain them, and you have to be a little bit more careful with them. What I can say is that the knife, this wood handle is very, very warm in the hand. It feels organic, and it feels very, very different than what you would with your standard synthetic handle materials. I don't know what it is. It's almost soft, and although the wood is hard itself, it just has this sense of that this was a living thing in the past, and I don't know what that is, but it certainly feels good in the hand. So I'm finding it a little bit more comfortable on the Wabakimi, surprisingly. So let's go with this one again. Could be that section of wood that I was dealing with. Let's try another piece here. Feels quite good on these push cuts. And you know, one of those things where people complain about the spine not being sharp enough to light a fire steel, when you see me pressing down on that spine with my thumb, having that finished spine makes this actually a lot comfortable, more comfortable than having a sharp spine. So I think, you know, there's always trade-offs. But I'm going to say right off the bat that the Wabakimi is really good at biting into that wood. In fact, on sharpness, both of these just come with the edge. I haven't sharpened them yet. I thought that the Wabakimi was less sharp than the Temagami. Temagami was basically popping hairs off of my arm, but I'm actually finding the bite into the wood a little bit better, and it must be related to the grind. So I mean, they're both Scandinavian grinds here, but it's a little bit deeper cut, comes up higher on the grind line, making that a little bit superior cutter. So I was surprised at that. I mean, when you really try to bite in, both of these do a great job in the way we expect with Scandi knives. Yeah, so, but in handling, it's pretty clear to me that Les designed the Wabakimi with wood carving, maybe creating traps and some fine level detail. And I had my druthers, and I was carving with both of these knives. and doing some fine detail work. The Wabakimi, surprising as it is, because I think it's an ugly little knife. It's not ugly, but it's certainly not as pleasing as the Temagami in shape. But this one really gets the job done, and it really powers through the hand. So I can see why Les sort of refined his knife afterwards. Now, is this a do-it-all bushcraft knife? Probably not. You know, a 3-inch cutting blade and 3.3-inch total length just really isn't enough to do any you know, baton splitting or anything like that. This is a great little carving knife, great little skinning knife, and I think it would work as a companion to either a larger blade like a SE6, or it would work as a companion to an axe. This one, on the other hand, is probably a do-it-all bushcraft knife. 4-inch blade. It's going to be long enough to baton split the type of wood that you would need in a 3-season situation to keep yourself warm, and a very versatile blade shape. So there you have it, 2 knives from Helle, and I'm really looking forward to bringing these knives out on subsequent trips. Really great pieces of work, beautiful pieces of work, and good performing knives.